Good morning, everybody. This is Jeff Morton, and I want to talk a little bit about Donald Trump and how he threw the Iran deal that Barack Obama put together. He threw it under the bus, which to me is a celebration. But I want to read something first of all. And of course, if you have seen my David and Goliath video, I'm going to kind of go back to that for a moment here in the scriptures, and I'm going to be reading from the New King James Version. But it says here, so Saul clothed, and I'm reading now 1 Samuel, starting in chapter 17, verse 38. So Saul clothed David with his armor, and he put a bronze helmet on his head. He also clothed him with a coat of mail. David fastened his sword to his armor and tried to walk, for he had not tested them. And David said to Saul, I cannot walk with these, for I have not tested them. So David took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in the shepherd's bag in a pouch which he had, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. Okay, so let's talk about Donald Trump. Now, I listen to a lot of the black folks call him a racist, Hebrew roots people, Christians. I've heard it all. I've seen it all. But I read that verse there because Donald Trump, in my opinion, is kind of like a David figure. I mean, number one, Israel is honoring him. They named a square after him. They're putting him on the shekel coin, half shekel coin. There's so much going on in just those two little things. See, you people tend to confuse Israel with the Jewish secular nation. And I tend to see Israel as the seat of the authority of God Almighty in the place of his presence. And so when I see a president align themselves with the land, the place of his presence, and the overall things that God is doing through Israel, then I go, wow, this man is doing things that no president in my lifetime has done. I mean, obviously Nixon helped him out during the Yom Kippur War. Ronald Reagan supported him, but a Democrat administration has been horrible for Israel. And when I say Israel, I'm talking about the place where God is revealing to all of the world what he's doing. So, Donald Trump, some of you Christians, you criticize him, and particularly some of you Hebrew roots folks, because he doesn't line up with your spiritual understanding of the Bible. And he's sort of a crackpot in your mind, and he's been called a racist, he's been called a bigot, a womanizer, and you know what? He might have been all of those things. But right now, he is a president who is facing giants. And he is bold about it. So when he threw this plan with Iran under the bus, that this lunatic administration of the Obama folks, which, I can't say enough about the lunacy of Barack Obama and his administration. For you folks who see him as the first black president, I see him as the first worst president of my lifetime. I thought Jimmy Carter was bad, but Barack Obama leaped ahead of him. And I'm looking at this from a common sense perspective. You don't make a treaty, or it wasn't even a treaty. You don't say to the world's foremost terrorist state that we'd like to enter into an agreement with you whereby you stop making your weapons and we'll be all nice to you, and give them $150 billion, mostly in cash, and then say to them, now we want to make sure you're doing okay, so we want to inspect you, but we'll give you time to clean up everything, we'll give you plenty of time to hide everything, we'll do whatever you need us to do, which is essentially what Barack Obama did. So I'm looking at this president who in a year and a half has been a remarkable president. I mean, remarkable president. No, he's not perfect. But I mean, what he's done for the VA, I love how he's shredded this Common Core lunacy that Bill Gates put forward through his foundation. I mean, that's all going away. Admitted failure. How Barack Obama gave us a tax cut. how the corporations are pouring their money back into this country, how we've become energy independent. Remember, Barack Obama cut off oil drilling and canceled all kinds of contracts. He just decimated the coal industry. Well, folks, the reality of the situation is we need this energy in order for all of us to kind of do what we do. Of course we're going to clean up. In fact, the United States is a leader in doing clean energy around the globe. But you don't hear that from the mainstream media. Barack Obama has done, Donald Trump has done more in this nation as the president than I have ever seen of any president, including Ronald Reagan, who I idolized Ronald Reagan. And I'm going to use that word because he changed my thinking about the political structure of this country. I began to understand that the Democrat Party, as long as they could lord over the black community, my community, then they could stay in power and continue to decimate the black family, which is exactly what they've done. So when I see people like Maxine Waters and Al Sharpton, and these folks calling Bill Clinton the first black president, I look at this ignorance. It's even beyond ignorance to me. Because, we're all talking skin color at this point instead of character. Now, Donald Trump's got some missteps. Granted, he's been married a few times. He hasn't been very good to women. I get all of that, okay? And so does the Lord. David was kind of the same way. David's family was messed up as a result of his dad. But Donald Trump's kids aren't out slinging drugs. You're not seeing about them drunk, falling down, and being naked and exposed. I mean, his daughter, to me, is top shelf. She's an amazing woman. And his two sons, granted the one son's getting a divorce and his wife was involved in some infidelity. I don't know. I don't know these people. I just know this, that Donald Trump, he sees a problem and then he goes and fixes it. And Michael Massey put out an article called Donald Trump the Pragmatist. And really, I read that article, of course, on the internet. Charles Krauthammer's been given credit for it, but that's not the case. Michael Massey put this article out, and he really defines Donald Trump, in my opinion, quite well. He calls him a pragmatist, and he says he's neither Republican or Democrat. He's a person that sees a problem and fixes it. But the thing I love the most about Donald Trump is he's all about America, and he's all about the American people, and all about the American voter, and all about the American citizen. I mean, the wall that he's building, if you don't have borders, you don't have a country. Okay, it's just that simple. So now this deal with Iran. First of all, he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. For the world, I don't expect the world to understand this. I don't even expect the Christians to understand this, some of you at least. But that is a gigantic move that no president up to this point in time had the guts to do. So he's moving it. Oh, and the naysayers are going to tell us that this is going to strike war, and this is, folks, I don't know if you notice this or not, but Iran has been fomenting wars around the Middle East for 30 years. So if we don't have a president who stands up to that, if we don't have a president and an administration that stands up to North Korea or China or Russia, then what's the point of being America? What's the purpose of being one of the most powerful nations in the world if our power is taken away from us by the citizens who don't understand that you have to have a show of strength. You cannot bargain with the world from a point of weakness. When David walked into the village, he rode a donkey down into the village, down into the place where Saul was encamped. And he looked at Goliath and said, "Who is this dude sitting here blaspheming God?" And he was fearless. And then he went out and killed this giant, which is, to me, it's like a dress rehearsal of what our Messiah is going to do to the nations that move against Israel. Some of you will get that. Most of you will get that if you're faith-based. So what I'm trying to say here is that I've got these notes here, what Donald Trump has accomplished for this country. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. And he's done it in less than a year and a half. And he's looking at the Democrats and he's looking at the Republicans and he's saying, hey, you guys won't help me. I'll get it done by myself. He puts John Bolton, somebody I've admired for a long time, puts him up there in the place of where now he's got this group of people, this core group of people who are going to say to the world, we're not going to be pushed around. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate what he's doing. And so I'm looking at it from a biblical perspective, a political perspective, and a common sense perspective. And I'm telling you, what this man has done is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And for him to tell these lunatics, these mullahs and the Ayatollah of Iran who have enslaved their people for the most part and fomented proxy wars all over the world, for him to say no, enough is enough. He didn't hand them $150 billion like that lunatic Barack Obama did. He said, I'm yanking this deal and here's the sanctions. And if you want to keep going, we'll keep going with that too. And I sat and listened to his speech. I've listened to what he has done. I sit here and marvel at the genius of this man. And I look at the people who throw him under the bus, some of you faith-based folks too, and certainly a whole lot of you ignorant black folks who have no clue what the Democrat Party has done to make sure you were not a voting bloc against them. It's like they're like slave masters, and I call it the plantation nation. It just defies logic, and as long as you wear the color of your skin as opposed to the content of your character, those people are going to lord over you. They're going to rule over you. And that's exactly what they've done in my lifetime. So I sit here and I scratch my head and I go, you know, like this Candace Owen and the whole Kanye West thing. Yeah, I don't think too much of Kanye West and the way he, I don't know him. But what I've seen him doing lately, what I see him saying lately, gives me a different perspective of him. And I'm all on board with that. And Candace Owens, who is basically an internet celebrity, is spot on. You know, I could go through a list of black folks who have changed the dynamic of the Democrat Party by walking away from it, getting away from these. I mean, Hillary Clinton, for a year and a half, has been making excuses why she lost the presidency. And, of course, the liberal machine is doing everything they can to impeach this man. Everything. And I'm sitting here watching the hand of God protect him from these nut jobs. And I can't call it any other way, folks. First of all, he said, I'm going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. I'm going to stand by Israel. He gave us a tax credit. There's so many things. I got pages of stuff that this man has done, okay? Repealed the individual mandate. Tax cuts. He opened up the Arctic National Wildlife, not to turn it into a mud hole, but to make America energy deficient. Justice Neil Gorsuch. Judicial appointments, left and right. He cut off the head of the caliphate. I mean, and it took him a couple of months to do that. I'm sitting here, stock market going through the roof. Reviving NASA. He revived NASA. I mean, accountability at the VA. Go down the list. He's downsized the government. If he could get rid of the National Education Association, I would probably be in euphoria for the rest of his presidency. Folks, Donald Trump is exactly what we've wanted. In spite of his flaws, in spite of his character deficiencies, he is a man who sees problems and he goes after it. He stands by his word. And I just think that this man has been brilliant for the health of this nation. Now, if we could just if the Christian population was so self-righteous, you allowed abortions. If your voice had been unified, abortions would have never happened. You allowed same-sex marriage, as you're supposed to be the warrior for the Lord and all of the things that are biblically decent, and yet you rolled over as a group of people same-sex marriage, transgenderism. You go down the list of what these lunatics have brought in to the society of the United States of America. And you did nothing. You did nothing. If 80% of the American public is Christian, 80% of the American public is allowing 20% of the American public to roll over everything that is decent and true and honest. So if you sit in judgment of Donald Trump, I sit in judgment of you. Because your voice isn't even heard in this nation. So, for the self-righteous folks who tout the Bible and talk about the laws of God and talk about the decency and the benevolence of our wonderful Father, as long as you are sitting back waiting for an airlift to take you out of this world, which is not even biblical, you're sitting ducks. And that's why with these laws that make no sense whatsoever, are being passed. They're being passed because you do nothing. Well, we don't really want to get involved in politics. You know, Jesus came and turned politics, the political world, upside down. And so did Paul, and so did the disciples. And they did it because they ran out to meet the giant. These midterm elections, the media says we're going to lose, and we're going to lose big. Okay? If you believe that, you're just stupid. You're just stupid in the face of North Korea, in the face of Iran, in the face of standing up to China, in the face of him standing up to Russia, the tax cuts, going into the VA and cleaning house, getting rid of all this pork in the government, getting rid of all these programs and all these regulations that are just crippling our ability to do anything in this nation. If you believe that the Democrats are going to win big at midterms, you are stupid. You are just dumb. For those of you who understand and appreciate what this man is doing, never Trumpers, you're idiots. You need to get behind this man. Your vote needs to be gigantic come the midterms. You have to get out of the pews and go vote and support what Donald Trump is doing. You just have to do that. Why do you keep handing the election to these losers who want to destroy your families, destroy the morality of the nation, tax you out of every dime you have, continue to make the ghettos expand? Why do you keep voting for this lunacy? And I speak particularly in the black community. Why do you believe the media instead of doing your own research and finding out that what you believe is a flat out lie? I've been saying this for 40 years. You need to uncolor stupid. You just need to stop being stupid, folks. Donald Trump is exactly what this nation needed. Anyway, this is Jeff Morton. JeffSMorton.com. Check me out. Got off my chest. Now I can go to work. Have a good day. Bye.